Thank you, Veronique. Thank you, everyone, for organizing this event and being here. It's a great pleasure. My name is Pierre. I live in New York, and I was sitting a few blocks away 6 years ago when everything started at the d.school here. And I remember, like, the space was literally like the space of the stage. And it's great to see so many projects and so many new spaces like here, and this space is really wonderful. You presented a little bit about Sunrise. So Sunrise, I was the CEO and co-founder. That's a company we started with my co-founder Jeremy a few years ago, and we had this idea of reinventing something that I was using every day, which was calendar, or as we like to call it, like any software that helps you manage your time. Like, we're trying to build a company around this notion of time, because we thought that time is one of the most valuable dimensions to work on. That time is never going to go away. People have 24 hours a day. They need to make the most out of it. And with phone, we thought there was an opportunity to do something better than what's already out there. So I started Sunrise with this wonderful team in 2013, and early 2013, and then we raised money in the US, and we started basically building not a business, but mostly a product. I think we've been really good at building a product and not necessarily a business, but I think what's interesting about what we've done at Sunrise is that a lot of things we've done building this company was inspired by the journey I had here at my last year at l'École des Ponts. And so right now I'm really proud to be able to share some of the things we've done that hopefully you can be inspired by and apply in some of the things you are doing in one way or another. So it's a great pleasure to be here. This is just a screenshot of what we're doing at Sunrise, a really, really, really nice interface to help you manage your time, primarily on the phone, on iOS and Android, and then eventually onto the desktop. And so we worked on that for 2 years, and then eventually Microsoft acquired the company, and I continue to work here, no part of what is everyone knows as Outlook. And that's a very interesting number, because that's the number Microsoft paid for every one of the people working in our team. And I think we live in something wonderful, not because that number is impressive, but just because as a small team, you can have a huge impact. Like, our company was only like 10 people when Microsoft acquired us, but at the same time, what's kind of like counterintuitive is that we were able to do more in 2 years than probably what they've done over the last 20 years helping people manage their time. And so when people ask me, like, how big was your team? I don't know if I should say 10 people, which was the actual number of people in the office every day, or 50, considering that I think we were at least 5 times more productive than everyone else working on that. And so this notion of how productive you are and how you work, to me, has always been as important than what you do. Like, if tomorrow I start another company, I know that the subject will change. I will probably not work on another calendar again. It will not be the same ID. It will not be the same user proposition. It will not be the same way to go to market. But what I think will not change is the way we're doing things. And I think that is really something important. For me, it's not about what you do right now. It's about how you do it. Of course, there is the why, but let's keep that aside for a second. But it's more about how you do it. And I think this is really my revelation about design thinking when I was here with Veronique and the team, is that it's mostly about how you do things. And today we have a lot of different projects in different industry, serving different people, different needs. But there is a commonality on everything we do, in the way we do things, the way we do research, the way we talk to users, the way we communicate, the way we prototype, except all of that is similar. Whether you're building something for helping older people to drive, or helping mom and dads with their kids, or what we were doing, which is helping people manage their day a little bit better. And that's what I want to talk today, sharing a little bit about the how we did some of the things that I think will be the same if tomorrow I recreate another company that could be totally different from what we did with Sunrise. And the first thing is about hiring. How do you get people to work with you? Because that's the number thing. Like that's the only thing probably you should make sure you have right. Is like, how do you hire people that are going to help you grow your business, and how do you keep them, working for you? So hiring for me has always been, as the CEO of a company, the #1 priority. You need the best people. You cannot make a great meal if you don't have great ingredients. It's impossible. So how do you get the best people? And a lot of people say, oh yeah, we are the best, etc., etc. And I don't believe in that. I believe that at Sunrise, we didn't hire the best people. We hired the future best people. And we had a team of 10 people again, working on this problem for only 2 years. And people were like 25. Like my lead engineer, who was kind of like having the role of the CTO, was just out of school. And out of school in the US is after 3 years, after a bachelor. So he was like, he was not a, when he joined Sunrise, he was not even able to drink legally in the US, right? Like, it's 21 in the US. And so this is just, maybe this is a bias from our industry, but I look for the people who will be the best. And the people who will be the best are not the people who have the best resume, are not the people who look based on paper. The people that we hire and that we stay with us, they have at least 3 characteristics that I look for. The first one is passion. We want people to be passionate about what the company is about. If you don't care about helping people manage their time, that's totally fine. But you don't need to work at Sunrise. And so we look consistently for people who are passionate about this problem and wanted to help the team to try to fix some of this problem. And we had interesting ways of doing that. And one way we had was, all we're recruiting was kind of like really strange. Like if you wanted to apply at Sunrise as an engineer or as a designer, we would just send you a link to a project that you should do. We won't really spend any time with you until you spend time working on that project. For a designer, it was building a small app that does X. And for an engineer, it was building code that does X. And it was really tricky because it would take people a lot of time. Like if you were to apply with us, it would take you at least a day to work on that. And if you're just starting to apply to 1,000 companies because you don't know what to do, you cannot spend 1,000 days doing challenges for this company. So this challenge for us was a way to find motivated people. And we didn't hire the people who had the base code. We hired the people who came back to us the next day with a solution. And then we say, okay, this is not as good as we wanted from a code perspective, from an engineering perspective, but you came up the next day and you spent the whole night working on this. So we're going to give you a few feedback, and then if you improve, we're going to end up hiring you. And so by doing this, by asking people a huge commitment up front, we were kind of like already filtering all the people that were just applying with templates. And we end up with a very, very small team, but I don't care about how many people I have. I care about how many user-facing features we end up shipping every week. That's what I care about. I don't care about the size of my team. I care about finding the right people, like making sure they stay and make them happy. And this challenge was a weird way because a lot of people, especially people that are like further in their career, they just don't spend the time to do that. And so we had a very, very young team, people going out, just graduating from school, applying to Sunrise, and they were not necessarily the best at what they do, but they had this amazing passion for what we were doing, and they were putting so much energy that we ended up hiring people that eventually become, I think, the future best. Another thing that we care a lot about, of course, is talent, but not in a sense like the best talent. We care about people that you need to have some talent. We are pretty upfront about this, but our threshold is probably lower than other companies because we care more about your passion than where you are right now. We want to help people grow in what they do. I'm not interested in you because you're like at point A. I'm interested in you because you want to go from point A to point B. And that's also the role, I think, of every manager, to understand where people want to go and try to, build a path for them to go there. When I have one-on-one with my people, I don't ask them, yeah, are you happy or whatever. That's okay. Like, I know, because if they're staying here, usually I can tell if they're happy. I'm asking that where we want to be in 1 year. And it's funny because in my previous experiences, my manager was never asking me this question. Right? He wanted me to be the best at what I was doing, but the best people don't want to be the best at what they're already doing. They want to be the best in something else. So you have to be good about understanding that. And we also have something that I like to say is we hire people that are really nice. It's kind of like stupid to say, but I don't really love people. I don't really like working with people that are not nice. And if you get the chance to be hiring the people one by one, why not making your life a little bit easier by hiring people who are just like really nice and or good people. So we value that. We value that a lot. We value people that are just nice, and some people are really talented, but if you're not nice, we're not really interested in working with you. So let's talk about design thinking now and other things. I strongly believe that everyone is a designer. Like at Sunrise, we could not build the product we've built in so little time with so few people if everyone was not committed to be a designer in the team. And I think, the example I've given to illustrate that is when you have a bad experience, when you are on a plane and something is not working, or when you're trying to buy your ticket on voyagesncf.com, or like when you're doing something that's frustrating, you know it's frustrating, right? And that's the beginning of you being a designer. You're like, oh, I don't like this, right? So you have this sensation that there is something you don't like. So at Sunrise for us, it was really important to say everyone has a voice in the product. Of course, everyone uses it, which makes it easier for us, but everyone has a voice in the product. Something else we did was the fact that everyone was doing customer support. Like sometimes, like I was, as the CEO of the company, doing customer support. Like you could send an email to Sunrise, and I will be replying, and people will like be amazed by that. But like that's the best customer insight you can get. Like people are like spending the time to write you an email, and you can spend 15 minutes a day replying to them. You do 5 emails, and you see what are the problems, and all people are excited. And so in the team, everyone was doing support. Every engineer would spend time doing support. And that's something that, like right now, because we're a bigger organization, it's kind of like silos, and we don't do that anymore. And we don't feel the love anymore about what we're building, because people were saying, oh, I love Sunrise, but there is a bug, but at least there is the I love, because people are actually really, really nice when they send you email. And they were just like, and we know we miss that. And so this is, again, this idea of like everyone needs to be involved in the product. And the best way to get involved in the product is just talk to your customer. So everyone was just talking to customer every day. And that was really fun. I mean, it was just, we miss it, now that we don't do it anymore. Empathize, right? What does that mean? For us, it meant that you need to be a user, which again is probably easier if you're building a calendar than if you're building something for older people if you're not old, right? But for us, of course, you have to be a user, right? And I think a lot of time you can be actually a user of a product, and everyone in the team, even before they show up for interviews, they were already using the product. Like if you interview at Sunrise, and it's a calendar app, and you didn't have the app installed, you were already, there is no point in talking, right? Talk to users, that's the point I've made about support. We were also looking at stuff on Twitter, on Facebook, like just everyone was involved in this. And no one, like, before the acquisition, no one was managing customer support. There was no one person responsible for that. We hired someone at some point because it became too big, but before that, just everyone was doing it. Everyone was doing a few conversations with customer every day. And that's the best thing you can do. Like it's just free insights from whoever is using your product. And they're giving you what they like, what they don't, what you can improve. They can give you suggestions. We were not using this as a way to decide our strategy, but we were definitely using this as a way to understand how much people love our product, how important it was for them, what worked, what didn't. That was really, really wonderful. Everyone loved that. And that was the first thing we did when you show up at work on the first day at Sunrise is we will give you an email address and we will show you how to reply to customer. Another thing that we try to do is always put ourselves in the shoes of the users. And I say that, for me, it seems very obvious, but now I realize how much you always need to remind yourself about this, is that people just don't think about putting themselves in what the user will experience. And that's something that to me is I don't understand, but it's always, I guess it's easier to think from your point of view versus thinking what the user will experience. So one thing we're doing to materialize that with Sunrise is that before we work on anything, I ask 2 questions. What is the blog post that we're going to write when we announce this feature? So what are we going to tell to consumer when we announce this feature? And you had to write this before you start working on anything. That was a forcing function of like, I want to know the story you're going to tell to consumer even before you build that, right? And the second point was, can you make a video out of that? If you're building something and you cannot make a video out of that, it's probably not very interesting. That's, for me, is the threshold. And there are a lot of things you need to do that are not interesting. When we're fixing a bug, when we're making the app load twice as fast, we're okay not making a video. But that means that it's not really, really interesting for the user at the end, right? And so those 2 things, like tell the story from the consumer. Like I want to know what you're going to tell in 3 months, even before you start working on that. And in order to do that, I want a blog post. I want to show me what the user will read, or what is the video they will watch, even before you start working on something. Another way of saying this is, when people think about a problem, like let's say you want to learn the alphabet, A, B, C. Like some people, they will say, okay, let's focus on A. Let's make the A letter really, really nice. Let's make it really beautiful. And then I will focus on B. Then I will focus on C. What we do is that we focus on A very, very little, on B very, very little, but we go up to the end. We want to see the entire user flow before we start saying, oh, we should focus on A, we should focus on B. We say, we go from A to Z, I want to see the full user experience, and then we see, you know what? Actually, the problem is F. And there is no way we would have get to F if we didn't go really quickly scanning through A to Z in the first place. So that's something that's very, very important. When you're designing an experience, anything, whether it's a new feature on Sunrise, let's say we shipped a very popular feature to help people scheduling meeting. And what we say is that we have to go through the entire flow. We cannot focus on one specific part of it. We have to think about everything. We don't think a lot about it, but we think about everything, then everything is on our mind, and then we know, okay, F is the problem. That's where we need to focus, and then we focus on F. But we have this big vision already, and that's, I think, changed a lot. So I like this analogy of like, people can focus very well on one letter, and then the next one. We don't focus on anything. We go the entire spectrum, and then we know what to focus on that's actually meaningful. Of course, building prototype, again, very obvious, but it's insane how many people just don't do it. I was working before Sunrise in another company in New York, and we were just not doing that. The way we were building software was, designer, which I was part of, would think for 2 months about something and argue about everything because it's only on paper, and then give it to the engineer, give it late to the engineer, who then have 2 weeks to build it because we say it's going to take 2 months and a half, and then the engineers are pissed off because we're late, and they get 2 weeks to build that, which is not enough, and at the end of the day, it's only our first version because it's the first time we're building it, and we're trying it. And so that's something that we completely changed when we were building Sunrise. Because for us, building Sunrise was not building a calendar app, it was building a way to build products. And so when we started with Jeremy thinking about what we like about our experience in previous company and what we want to change, the first thing we know we wanted to change is we need to build stuff. We need to be able to build stuff very, very quickly. It's going to be rough, it's going to be dirty, but it's going to work. We're going to feel it. We're going to have it in our pocket. We're going to be able to play with it. That's very, very important. Another idea that I think can help a lot of people when they approach this is I go sometimes in meetings And people have those crazy names about projects. Right? They have this name about it. Usually it's a technical name. You know, we're building this and blah, 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 and it's like a relational database model. Blah, blah. And I don't understand that. Like simplifying is about naming things from the user point of view. When Apple introduced FaceTime, I don't have to tell you anything about FaceTime. You already have a sense of what the feature is, right? And that's what I don't understand, is this is so simple. You need to just start by naming things the way people understand them. And again, you have to put yourself in the user's shoes to be able to name things correctly. But the first way, or one way to build amazing product is by finding great names that actually talk to people, talk to like within your team, and then eventually your customer. So the first thing we did every time we work on Sunrise, we name things. When we were working on our feature to help people scheduling, we call it Meet, because Meet is what people are gonna end up doing. And when we ship it, there was a video, of course, and there was the name of it, and then people remember the name, right? Every time Apple introduces a new product or a new feature, you will, like, there is a name for that. And the name is usually really, really well chosen so that it actually relates to what the feature is going to do and is very simple. So naming things, very, very important. Very, very important, how you name things. This notion of 1 week. Some people have talked about this already. I think the only dimension in time that is actually manageable for human being is 1 week. Like if I ask you where you're going to be next week, so next Thursday, you know. If I ask you where you're going to be next month, you don't know, right? Maybe you're going to check in your calendar, but this is just not in your mind. This is just not. So this notion of like building things, that was very important for us. And then it was like, what's the scale at which we're building? For us, very simple, 1 week. Every time you were working on something at Sunrise, the next week, you were expected to show something to the team. Build something within 1 week. It's enough. And there was this interesting video about the people in the car lab, right? Like they were like, oh, in 1 week we could do so many things. Of course. It will not be a crafted product. It will not be a finished product. It will be something that you can feel, touch, imagine, share, communicate about, right? It will be a rough version of something that is the start of a discussion. And you can do amazing things in 1 week. And for us, 1 week was even more important than everything because as a company making zero money, because we're not yet selling the software, we had basically, like, let's say, 2 years of, spending the money that the investor gave us to build a business. So 2 years, 1 week, it's 1%. If you only have 2 years to live, you would see 1 week as something very valuable, right? And so you can do a lot in 1 week. And we were able to do a lot. And that's always the time horizon we've been working on. Is we take a project, and then my first question was like, what do we have next week? And next week we were like going through this alphabet and say, we need something that looks like A to Z. It's going to be very rough, but it actually works really well. Meetings. I had to put something about meetings. Like there are too many meetings that are inefficient. And I think the reason for that is that people, when they join a company, they use all of the tools that are already there without thinking about the tools. Again, it's about how we do things versus what we do. And they go into meetings and they assume that because it's been done like this, it has to be done like this forever. I go into meetings and there is no agenda. So if you send me a calendar invite and there is no agenda for the meeting, I decline. If it's more than 1 hour, I decline. If there is not someone who is assigned to take note, I decline. It's not possible to run a meeting like this. It's a waste of everyone's time. Brainstorming is great, and you need time where you brainstorm and you bring everyone on the table, and that's a part of the creative process. But all of the time, there are just people like spending meetings. I love writing. Writing is an underestimated asset. Writing is great. When you write something, if I was doing this speech and I was just improvising, I would waste every one of your time. But I spend time trying to prepare this, right, and do my best so that you get the most out of it. And the meeting is like the opposite. It's like, oh, I don't know, oh, I'm like thinking while I'm speaking, and I'm losing everyone's time. Not to mention they already start late, and video conference doesn't work, etc., etc. It's like a waste of everyone's time. It's a lack of respect for everyone's time. And I love writing. Writing is fantastic. Writing, like if you ask me a question, and you give me all the information I need to think about it, I'm doing a much better job by writing about it and sending you my, condensed thoughts about this, and I have more time to do it. It's a much more way efficient to do it. Meetings are important, but you have to really run well. And you're going to go back to your company and you're going to do meetings the same way. And that's going to be just, a waste of everyone's time. Don't do meeting if there is no agenda. Don't do meeting if no one is assigned to take notes, if there are not clear steps to do it. And honestly, as a guy making company, I love that you're spending your time in meetings. Because that's why I can build companies, do stuff that you're not able to do in big corporation, and then sell you the stuff afterwards, right? But like, if I'm giving you my honest feedback about how to do that, it's just like, try to be wise about how you manage your time. That's your most valuable asset, right? Tools are also very important. People go, and maybe it's easier because we're a young company, but tools are very, very important. And so you have to think about all what you use and all you use to make the most out of it. People at Sunrise love our culture. On a very small sample, we never lost one employee at Sunrise. It's not about what you do, because what you do will change. It's about how you do it. That's very important. And two more things for the crowd here, especially the students. Please follow your intuition. Please after school go create companies or join small companies that are building interesting things that you're passionate about. And failure is way failure is worse than regret. So failure is less important than regrets. You'd rather have a big failure than big regrets. Thank you very much.